Good morning and welcome to this webinar. We will still wait for a couple of minutes to allow all the participants to join. You're already a lot in the room. Thank you for being on time. And we are very enthusiastic to share this topic with you. So let's just wait a couple of minutes. We will start in a few moments. While we are waiting for the participants, of course, you are really welcome to use the Q&R tab or option in Teams to ask your questions. I guess you have a lot of questions. We still have on our side a lot of questions as well. So we will try to, of course, answer your questions during the session or after. Yeah. So welcome for the people who are joining now. You're very welcome. We are just waiting for participants to join. Show you a bit of animation meanwhile. So already a lot of people are connected and still connecting. Okay, great. I think we can start. So again, welcome to this webinar. We are, of course, servicing our customers a lot on DORA for the moment and addressing this topic of the register, helping customers on the register, and we are facing often the same challenges. So we thought about sharing that with a more larger audience to try to answer questions and to propose, of course, our services. So today I have the honor to be joined by Alexandre, Delphis, and later as well by Renaud Gauthier, our CEO, who will as well share their part. So let's go into the topic. Let's kick off. Let's start. So this is the agenda for today, for the session of today. So I will drive you through a small introduction on the register on DORA as well, but really quickly. The idea is not to give you a training on DORA today. Is more to set up the scene. Go through the different challenges that we and our customers are facing regarding the provision, population, and as well the maintenance of the DORA register. So I will expose those challenges. To address them, we have developed a platform which is called Recover. So Renaud will do a short demo of Recover. So before, of course, and during the session, you always have the opportunity to ask questions. So feel free to use the Q&R option again. And then to answer some of those questions and address some of those challenges, we will go into a deep dive of the register. So Alexandre, which is a good swimmer, will dive with you into the file, into the register, to discuss really the details of some fields, some tricky points into the file. And if we still have time, we will try to answer your questions. So let's go. Sorry, I forgot to introduce myself. So my name is Jean-Hubert Antoine. I'm the CTO of TOTIT. I'm as well a DORA trainer. I'm doing a lot of trainings on DORA, especially at auto trainings in Luxembourg, but not only, abroad as well. And I will let, of course, Renaud and Alexandre introduce themselves later. So let's go into the intro. So who are we, TOTIT? So we are a consultancy company founded 6 years ago, so in 2019. And we are located in Luxembourg, in Le Lange. We have around 45 employees. Company is growing really rapidly. We have a multidisciplinary team with a mix of legal experts, compliance analysts, and ICT and security experts, which I am leading, the security part. And it's a very interesting mix, especially to address the Pillar 4 of DORA. So today, as I told you, we have the honor to have Renaud, who shared his webcam, our CEO. So I'm Jean-Hubert Antoine, CTO and DORA expert, and we have Alexandre, Delphis, head of legal and DORA legal expert as well. What do we do? So we help customers on DORA. We are a consultancy company helping customers on the gap analysis, remediation, scope analysis, and training on DORA, on outsourcing as well, on EBA guidelines, and locally on CSSF Circular 22806, and as well for insurance, the similar circular for insurance companies. We help customers to classify their suppliers and the outsourcing, go through the operating models, target operating models, and the service provider readiness. So working as well with, for example, ICT company or support PSF company. And we are doing a lot of filings for our customers to the CSSF on the critical and or important function outsourcing, an outsource function. We have developed since more than 2 years a platform Recover, which is in production. We have customers running it to automate, industrialize the compliance of DORA and as well on the outsourcing for the moment. And we will cover all the regulations or the compliance requirements in the future. So our platform is in the cloud. It's based on Microsoft Azure. So we have an application running at Microsoft. It complies, of course, with the outsourcing and DORA regulation in terms of third party and outsourcing. So it's an IT outsourcing. Our data are in Europe, in the Netherlands, and in Ireland. And we have the label made in Luxembourg. We have been the first cloud-based solution that has been designated as with a label made in Luxembourg recently. So very quick summary of DORA. So there are 5 pillars. Here we have 4 of the 5 pillars. The main one is the Pillar 1 ICT risk management, incident management, notification and reporting, digital testing, so with basic testing, advanced testing like TLPT, sorry. And the pillar that we are talking about today is Pillar 4 on third-party risk management, which is covering not only the register, but the third-party ICT provider, governance, risk management, and compliance. So really the management of the third parties, ICT third parties. The register, of course, but as well the contract and other governance aspects that I will list later in this presentation. Of course, the contracts are very, very important aspect as well. So why did the supervisory authority came with this register? What is the objective of the register is to be able to monitor the third-party risk, so the chain of subcontracting, which is risky for the financial sector. It's as well to harmonize the requirements between the financial entities, and as well, one of the main objectives is for the Operations Supervisory Authority to designate the list of critical service provider. There is already a draft list, but it seems that we will have to wait until the end of 2025 to see who will be designated as critical, so the CTPP, critical third-party providers. One of the main objectives of the register. This is the structure of the register. There is a part dedicated for the entity. So you see the different files there. So RT 0101, 0102, 03, as well as the list of ICT third-party service providers and the functions. Very, very important. We will talk about that to identify your functions and to link them with the official one. And there are a lot of data, so 99 fields in total, regarding the services themselves. So on the contracts, of course, on the intragroup. Intragroup is a very important aspect. Who is signing the contract? Who is signing, yes, the contract? Who is receiving the service? Who is delivering the service? The supply chain, and the assessment of the ICT service. So Alexandre will go through again this file in more details, in a lot more details. We'll go maybe not field by fields, but in the very details of the register. So to be able to fill the register and to have the correct governance of your ICT third parties, this is a summary of the steps you have to go through from our perspective, and this is as well what the Recover, our platform, is covering. So first you have to classify the ICT third party and the service. What type of service is it? Is it an outsourcing? Is it an ICT service that is in the scope of DORA or not? Is it critical or important? So CIF stands for critical or important function. So is this ICT service supporting a critical or important function of your entity? Then to go through the risk assessment. For that, you need as well the due diligence. You need to know what are the security measures in place, business continuity in place, measures in place that are protection, compliance, and so on. A lot of data you need from the service provider. And some of those data will be required for the register. Risk management, risk assessment, and due diligence goes together somehow. And then assess the conflict of interest, especially for the critical or important function, but not only. Go through the contractual remediation, so negotiate the contract, update the contracts, or request the signature of DORA addendum. So of course, the requirements for critical or important are not the same than for the non-critical or important function, or the services supporting critical or important function. Monitoring, so have the proper indicators in place, so service level agreement in place to monitor the third party. Again, especially and more deeply if it's a critical or important function. The exit strategy, exit plan for the critical or important function, and this is required for the register as well. And all those aspects, and especially the one in red, will help you to complete the register. If you are missing some of those points, you will face challenges to update the register, populate, update the register. So again, the elements in red are the one that we have analyzed as mandatory for the completion of the register. So what are the challenges related to this the register? So the completion, the population, and as well the update, which is maybe even a bigger challenge to update the register in the future. So the maintenance of it. So again, you need to classify, is it outsourcing or not? Is it an ICT service in the scope of DORA or not? Is it part of the exceptions? There are exceptions. Is it matching the 19 categories? Sorry. So in the register, there are 19 categories of ICT services. And is it critical or not? Or is it supporting a critical or important function of your entity or not? So by the way, there is, if you look at what was covered by the EBA guidelines or the circular on outsourcing, and what is covered now with DORA, there is a big gap. You may know that already or not. So DORA is focusing on ICT services. EBA guidelines were focusing on outsourcing. The governance is very similar, not exactly the same, but very similar. But the scope of DORA is really, really bigger than the scope of outsourcing. Based on our experience with our customers, we see that the outsourcing part, the ICT outsourcing part in DORA scope is like usually 10%, 20% of the total DORA scope. So there is really much more to cover in DORA compared to what you have currently managing in your ICT outsourcing. By the way, in the BPO, in the business process outsourcing, they may be, and there is often an IT section, an IT part, an IT tool, for example, used by the entity. You may have to consider this IT subset of the BPO in the DORA scope as well, unless it's part of the exception. Okay, so this is one of the challenge already, is the scope, and looking at the different teams in our customers managing that. This is adding a lot of overhead on the teams to cope with the remediation on DORA, but as well to maintain it, to maintain this governance after. So other challenges to populate the register is to gather information. Very challenging. The discussion between the entity and some ICT service providers could be very challenging. Still, a lot of ICT service providers are reluctant to admit that they have to align, not directly. They are not under the scope of DORA, but indirectly, if they want to serve the financial sector, they have to align. There are a lot of misunderstanding. Some service providers say we are not critical, we are not in the scope of DORA, so we don't care. And of course, you know that you need to have the right arguments to discuss with them. Another challenge is the identification, the official identification of the service providers. So in the register officially, it's only the LEI code or EU ID which are accepted for legal entities. The VAT register number and so on is only for persons, so for physical persons. But this is really challenging. By the way, it's not so difficult to have to obtain an LEI code from the provider point of view. It's only 50 euro. It's working quite well, so it's not really a big challenge. But to convince them that they need one is maybe the biggest challenge. The subcontracting as well, especially if they are supporting critical or important function of your entity. Do they manage their subcontracting chain, sorry, in the contracts, in the monitoring, in the risk management, and so on. The location, so in the register, you have to mention the location of the data, the location of the service, and the location of the management of the data. Sometimes it could be unclear, or could be in several countries, which is challenging to put that in a register. Intra-group is challenging as well. We will talk about as well the consolidation of the register for the intra-group entities or for the groups, and management of the resellers. So they are, and this is still unclear. You know, for example, if you have a reseller selling software licenses, do you have to put the reseller in the register and the software providers, both at rank 1 or not? Is it a subcontracting of the reseller? So our opinion is that if you are receiving the service from the vendor, not from the reseller, then you probably have to put both in the register, depending if you are receiving really a service from the reseller. Yeah. So sometimes you will have to put both at rank 1, sometimes only the reseller, especially if the reseller is a value-added reseller and is adding their services on top of the service of the vendor. Yeah, sometimes only the vendor. So it's on case by case, I would say. To be able to fill the register, the first thing you need is the BIA, your list of business functions and their criticity and their RTO, RPO, you know, which should be in your BIA. And you should have a BIA to comply with the Pillar 1 of DORA anyway, Article 11, if I remember correctly. So you need this BIA to populate the register on your functions, to identify which ICT services is supporting those functions, and what are the regulated services linked to that. What you need as well is the different assessments, so the scope, the service, the critical or important assessment as well, and the exit plan if it's a critical or important function. You need the contract. A lot of data should be within the contract, and what is missing should often be obtained through the due diligence. So in the due diligence, in the questionnaire you are sending, or in the way you are performing the due diligence, you have to think about the register, the information that you need in the register. All those information need to be compiled to the register itself. So a lot of challenges mentioned in this slide as well. A challenge is on the consolidation as well, and not only on the consolidation itself. So of course the register needs to be consolidated at the regional level, at the group level. So our advice to entities is you have to take care of your register, of course, and the register of your subsidiary and your branch. So all the entities that are below you, let's call it like that, and to send that to the group. But we are facing with some customers the challenge is that the entities are reporting to different regulated entities, for example, to CSSF or to the central banks, or to, you know, if it's an insurance, to the CAA. So the different sub register could have to be sent to different entities, to different authorities. Sorry. Don't forget, of course, to put your intra-group into the consolidated registers, into the registers, and to as well consolidate your functions so that the functions are matching between the different registers. Other challenges is the export itself. So with the dry run and with the first version of the ITS, the authorities were providing some templates, some different versions of templates. Those versions of templates are now outdated. So there are limitations in those templates. So if you simply use those templates to export and provide those CSV files, it will not be compliant because the FAQ and the implementation technical standards have evolved, and the authorities they explicitly stated that Excel is not really a suitable solution because everything is changing. They are changing the formats, the data, and so on, and the way to fill the register as well. So there are limitations in those Excel sheets. The authorities clearly stated as well that they will not support the entities not provide with any assistance on the technical issue, which could be very, very challenging because, of course, the register needs to be provided by April. But what will happen after? So to the authority, when the authority will come back to you with the message, your register will not be compliant because, yeah, a list of reasons. Where will you find the support to help you? This is really a challenge. Another one is that in the first version of the Excel for the dry run, for example, or the Excel templates that were providing by the authorities, in the fields were displayed the values of the different fields. In the CSV that needs to be produced and sent to the authority, it's not the values. It's when they are drop-down lists. It's not the values, it's the codes. So Alex, maybe you could show that later when you are doing the deep dive. So that's another challenge. In fact, the CSV file are not so readable because it's a list of codes. Yeah. So the population of it, the export to the CSV files, and of course sending that to the authority, but as well the updates, because they will add those contracts, those services will continue to be modified. There will be new contracts. There will be contracts that will end, and so on. So you need to update the register and keep it up to date. And this is as well the big challenge. And we think our solution is a good asset for that. So to answer those challenges, we have built a tool, as I said previously. So before giving the floor to Renaud, I will quickly check. Yeah.
Yes, some
Alex,
participants are
you want
waiting
to say something?
Yes, some participants are waiting for their approval in the approval list. They are waiting for joining the meeting.
So I will. So yeah, I will check that right away. Yeah. Okay. Approved. Yes. They have been approved. So I think, Renaud, we can start the demo. Let me check if there are some questions in the Q&A just before.
Or you can ask your question live. You would like to ask any question to Jean-Hubert as we speak.
Okay, so and I will answer. Yes, so Renaud, I will stop sharing. The floor is yours to show the audience our platform.
Okay, let me check. I cannot share my screen. Sorry.
I have to allow that to you, probably. Just 1 second. Oh, Renaud.
So an introduction, what is a RegCover? Is a platform to manage the outsourcing and DORA regulation. If we compare with GRC traditional tools, here it's a real workflow which will allow you to comply with both regulation. So it's really a remediation platform, not just a platform when you will get policies and processes, but you will see in a minute how we manage it, how we manage also the register. I will introduce it shortly for the different area, but I will focus on the topic of the day, which is the DORA Register. So the DORA Register, as you will see, will be populated automatically in the platform. It's not something that you have to build through an Excel sheet, and that's also a main advantage of the platform, in fact, because during the future years, you have to maintain it. The purpose is not to build it once and it's over, but you will have to maintain the register. You will have to amend it, and you have also to do an oversight of your critical service provider. So now I'm sharing my screen. Okay, okay. So I believe you can see my screen at the moment. As you can see, there are three main fields. One, which is the system configuration. There is an outsourcing module and a DORA module. For the people who are interested in an outsourcing module, I will not describe it today, but you have to know that for each supplier that you have in the outsourcing module, you can migrate the information towards the DORA module, so you don't have to do the work twice. First, we start with a system configuration. I will go quickly to this area. You give the information regarding the entity, but also what is important in the system configuration, the application determine the scope of applicability of the outsourcing and the DORA, which is applicable to your entity, which means that the requirements which are not applicable to your entity will disappear from the platform afterwards. So you are certain you respond only to the criteria which are the one relative to the entity, if you are a credit institution, a MANCO, an IFM, etc., etc. Also, we have a naming convention. Why? Because the risk management policy and process, for instance, is maybe not the name that you use in your entity. Maybe you call it RMPP, for instance, and it's not necessarily the chief risk officer who is in charge of the risk management policy and process. So you can do everything, any change you want regarding this naming convention, the documentation, but also the owner. And this will, of course, populate in all the documents on the platform. Also important, we have also a register implementation, which means that you can upload for the outsourcing module your template register regarding the outsourcing. And we have also the same regarding the DORA, which will create the file that I will explain in a minute. Then you validate and you can start working on the platform. So as I said, there are two modules, one which is outsourcing, which is not the topic of today, and one which is the DORA module. Okay. As you can see, we have a first homepage where we cover the adherence to the DORA regulation, meaning all the pillars. So here you can see that we are 20% compliant to the DORA, and you have a percentage per pillar, pillar 1, 2, 3, and 4. We will focus on the pillar 4 today, but I can already show you what we have in 2 minutes regarding the different pillar. Of course, you have the homepage of the pillar 1, which gives you the adherence to this pillar, a module which is governance and operational. If you go into the governance, you will see your adherence to the different items of the pillar 1 ICT risk management framework. Here you will see all the requirements, the policies which are required by the pillar 1. As you can see, there are a lot of governance documents which you have to comply with. That's a pretty heavy one that's the most heavy one regarding the governance. So you see, it's a workflow. You cannot miss any one because we have detailed all the one required by the DORA regarding the governance of the pillar 1. I will just will show you, for instance, the ICT security awareness program. How does it work? the platform is asking you to upload the document, the policy regarding ICT security awareness program. And here you have a tracker. What is a tracker? The tracker determines exactly which requirements your policy has to apply regarding the Chapter 2 ICT risk management. When the topic is covered, you will see here how the tracker is managing it. You can change the status and say, okay, the policies I have uploaded in the platform is covered. I validate. You can add a justification why it's covered, and automatically it will go to the next step. And again, we will start with here with the periodic review, regarding the ICT security, but for all of them, you can choose if you want to do a periodical review, either annually, semestrally, or you can choose your own date, depending on what you want. You approve it, you confirm, and the platform will automatically update the adherence to the pillar 1, which will increase it from it was 15%, I think we went to 16%. That's exactly the same if we go in the operational one. There are some documents that you have to fulfill. One of them is very important because it's the business impact analysis. I will come later on in the pillar 4. But that's the same process. You follow. What we will add, and we have it for some of them, we have, as you can see, a generic template, which are DORA compliant. Either you can upload your own template or use the one we have built for you, which is already DORA compliant. Of course, you need to customize it to your entity. But otherwise, that's the same principle. Of course, if you use our template, they are DORA compliant, which means that all the criteria here will be covered. But if it's not the case, that's your role as a DORA officer to check that you are complying with the requirement related to here, in this case, the business continuity test report. And again, you go to a periodical review and you determine at which period you want to review the document. You will receive an email that will tell you, by the way, don't forget, you have to review this business continuity test report in due time. The same logic applies to the pillar 2 and the pillar 3. As you can see, there are incident management. There is only one policy and process. On the operational one, you have one report. If we go to the pillar 3, exactly the same. The digital testing of the program and the policy and process. You see there is no difference. You upload your document, you check if it's compliant with the requirements which are described in the policy, and you set up a review date. The operational, there is a report, ICT test report, and the plan. This application gives you really all the means to comply with the different regulation, the different templates. It's a workflow, complete workflow. You cannot forget any document which is required by the DORA. Now we'll come to the pillar 4, which is the topic of today. As you can see, we have again a home page where you can see your adherence to the pillar with a topic which is related to the government and operational. And we have the supervisory report, which is the one that you will have to send to the regulator through the register. In our example, as you can see today, we have 2 DORA files. One DORA file is in fact one contract in the register. As you know, you need to reference in the register or your contract, and you need to have as many lines as we have a critical function which are applicable to the contract. So if 2 critical functions are applicable to one contract, you will find out 2 lines in your DORA register. Regarding the governance, it's pretty easy, I would say. There is just one, which is your service provider policy and process. So it's not the main one regarding the governance. Either you upload your policy and you check that the requirement, there are not that many, there are only 3 here which are required regarding the policy, and you check if the requirement relative to this policy is met by your policy and your process. You add a review as for the previous, all the documents you validate, and you can move to the operational part of the DORA. Before you start creating a DORA contract, in fact, DORA file, you need to go to the DORA Register. Sorry for that. No, that's not what I wanted to do. Here you see in the operational of the Pillar 4, you have the possibility to create, in fact, new contract. What does it mean? You start with the internal reference, you add the legal entity, the contractual arrangement. Is it a standalone arrangement or an archiving arrangement? You have to give a name of a user, of course. The person who will approve, in fact, the file, the service provider. As you can see, we have already added a number of companies in Luxembourg, which are the most well-known, which will mean that if you take Yaldi, for instance, it will populate all the information regarding the provider. You confirm, and you can add it to your register. Also, what is important to know is that you can delegate also the function, which means that, for instance, you could say that the legal assessment will be done by a legal person. It's not necessarily the DORA officer that we will do it. So what he will do, you choose a user, you select the document, and you create the delegation, which means that the legal officer will receive the questionnaire related to the legal assessment, and he will fulfill the information and give it back to the DORA officer. This will, of course, allow the DORA officer to complete the document. But that's an important point, as the DORA officer will not be by himself able to respond to all the questionnaire. Some of them are delegated to IT people, cybersecurity people, legal people. So that's really a way to collaborate with the different people in your organization to complete all the documentation and the requirement of the DORA. What did I miss as well regarding the supervisory report? Sorry for that. As you can see, you need first to do the setup of your register. That's an important point. First, you start with the setup, which means who is the entity responsible for managing the register. Suppose it's you or it's another entity belonging to the group. And with this layer here, you will determine exactly who is maintaining the register. Do you have entity branches? You add the branches which are under control by the main entity, and you describe as well the definition, the type of contractual arrangement, for instance. You have different questionnaire. You respond if it's the sensitiveness of the data. You can add a lot of information regarding the third-party supplier, as you can see, but you determine exactly. When you have done this, you save your information, and you can add the function. As you know, the criticity in DORA is given by the function. Here you will add the function. So you need to take your BIA, business impact analysis, and you start entering the function related to your entity. You have to add all the function of the entity. You select the activity for which the function is covering. Is it your financial leasing, lending activity, guarantees, in fact, payment services, for instance. You do everything. We have listed, of course, all the licenses activity according to the DORA. You add the financial entity to which the function is attached to. If you have branches, and you have to do it for each of the entity, of course. Date of the list, assessment of criticality or importance. You add the date, the RTO, you add the RPO, etc., and you confirm. When you have done this, you can add contract. So here you see we have added the 2 contracts. And again, you have to do the same process again, which means for each of the contracts, you have to do a supplier classification. You have to do a provider readiness. The contractual assessment, the risk assessment, and you have finally your DORA register. If I go in the DORA register, you can see. So this is the DORA register, which is applicable to this contract. It's pretty specific. As you can see, you have all the tabs that you have to fulfill related to this contract. You validate, yes. And you can do this at any time, in fact, which means that when you go in the supervisory report, you will find all the information relative to all the contract. So it's the consolidation of all the contract related to all the entities. As you can see, you have 2 buttons here. One to export it in XLS. Suppose you want only to export it for your own purpose and you want to know only what is exactly in my register regarding the requirement 5B0202. And you have this button here, which is the one which will allow you to export it to your authorities, which is, of course, in line with the requirement, with the last version of the DORA register, which is required by the European Central Bank. So you have to do this for each of your contract by creating new file. As I said, one file is one contract. So you have to do this as many times as you need for each of the contract. And you have to go to each of the phase. I come back again because there are a lot of things which has to do to be done. The supplier classification, you respond to different criteria which will give you a conclusion. You have to do this, which is very important, this ASSOM, which is an assessment of the ICT services. You determine exactly which ICT services is concerned by the contract. You have to do an identification of the entity which make use of the ICT service. You have to do the identification of the ICT supply chain. And you respond to each of the question and you move on. So it's an example here. It's fake data. I've taken the example of Julius Baer, but it's really fake data. It could be any entity, of course. So you respond to each of the question. You move on to the next step, which is identification of entity, signing the contractual arrangement, etc. You submit, you complete, and you go to the next step, which is the critical or important function. So you see here, the important function is related to the HR module. It gives you a conclusion. Okay, you can see that ICT third-party service providers supporting a critical or important function. You save it, you submit, it will populate the register as we speak automatically, and you have to follow all the steps. It's a real workflow. You cannot miss any step, which is a requirement of the DORA module, and you upload the document. As I said, either you use your own document, either you use our own document, and in real time, the DORA register is completed for the individual contract and will be populated afterwards. Here you see that's the individual contract related to this arrangement, I would say. And automatically you will populate this DORA register, which is the purpose to aggregate all the contract of the different entities, which you will export automatically in the right format. Also, the application allow you to check the data consistency. If it's not the case, you will not be able, of course, to upload it to the authority in due time. So it's an important thing to respect, of course. And you send it through the export button to the register, to the authority. This is an overview of what the platform is doing. Of course, I'm ready to answer any questions with my colleague Jean-Hubert and Alexandre. If you want to have a demo, we are here to do it for you. We have also simulation environment when you can test the application for 1 week or 2. And as we speak, the application is live already. So it's for sales since January, and we have already 5 clients in production, one of them being a major bank in Luxembourg, one of them being a major IFM, a very big one, and we have a small Menco as well and a smaller IFM already live. So in just a month, we have already 5 companies in production. So yeah, as you can see, the application is already successful because it helps you, in fact, not only to build a register, but you have to think over time about maintaining this register. And we didn't speak about the outsourcing module, of course, which is very tied to the DORA module. In the future, also to conclude my presentation, we will add a new module, as this platform will be really an IT regulation platform, which means that we will add new regulation, new module related to regulations such as AI Act, for instance. That will be certainly a new module that we will add in the future. As we see other regulation. You will not find out in this platform regulations such as ALM KYC, for instance, but only regulation related to IT. I don't know if there are any questions for me or for my colleagues Jean-Hubert and Alexandre, but please do not hesitate.
Well, there were a couple of questions in the Q&A. So there was one question from a person. So how is it working if there are only 2 contracts? So it's working the same way exactly as Renald was showing. But I would say that most likely you probably have more than 2 ICT service providers. Maybe you have another company where you are outsourcing maybe your entire IT, which is quite familiar to us. But then you have to consider as well the services that your mother company is reselling you or is acquiring for you. And probably there are some cloud tools that you are using. There is probably an internet service provider you are using. There are maybe an hardware company, hardware selling company, reseller, software reseller, and so on. So usually we see that some of the ICT service providers, some of the ICT services are forgotten. Probably usually there's more than 2. Very minimum would be, I would say, 5, but usually it's more. The minimum is usually more 10 or 15 contracts or services.
Another question from Alain. What if a TPP does not have a LEI or a EUID? We had not TOT-IT 2 weeks ago. We just buy it. It took me 5 minutes. There is a platform where you can buy a LEI code. It costs around 50 euros, if I remember well. So it's really easy for anyone to get one LEI code, in fact. If there are no other questions, there are some others.
There is one regarding the publication. So the register is to be published, you know, in the CSV format I was talking earlier, and as well, Renald was showing the export in CSV has to be published in April. Yes, to the CSSF. Depending for AIFM, it's to the CSSF if the AIFM, of course, is in Luxembourg. So we have to, of course, check what is your authority. But indeed, it's the first half of April. This is what has been.
But the question was about outsourcing. Is the outsourcing register still an obligation? I would say yes, the 22806. There is no amendment as we speak about the outsourcing rules, the 22806. So the register is still a requirement, of course.
To complete the answer to Alain, by the way, if your provider doesn't request an LEI code or EUID, in the future, they will not able to trade with the European Union. So it's a no-brainer. They have to request it. Otherwise, they will be prejudiced by their situations. And yes, you will have to handle third-party providers located in UK and Switzerland the same way you handle them within the EU.
One last thing maybe that people may ask is what's the pricing of this platform? So I give you quickly an indication. As you can see, we have a pretty cool licenses fee. We start with 2 licenses for 10,000 euro, and you can go to a global type of license for up to 200 users for 160K. In between, we are pretty flexible, as you can see. We go from 10K to 160K for the major bank, I would say, or organization or multi-entity organization which want to consolidate their register, their documents. But already we start from 10K and for small entities with 2 users. We think and we are strongly a believer that for that price, you cannot get all the information, all the policies template we put in the platform. And that's also something I didn't show you, but we have also a monitoring of the supplier in production. So that's also a functionality of the platform that they have not shown you, as the topic of today was about the pilot 4. But you can monitor your supplier in production through the platform. If you have any question about the pricing, do not hesitate to send me an email or to ask for a demo. So I give the floor to Alex now.
Thank you, Renald. Thanks a lot.
Thank you, Renald. So hello, everyone. Once again, thank you for joining us today. I am Alexandre Delphis, legal manager at TOT-IT Solutions, and I have been specializing in the DORA for nearly 2 years now. So over this period, I had the opportunity to develop, I think, a good understanding of both its theoretical and practical aspects, insofar as I myself created what we called DORA files at TOT-IT Solution. Jean-Hubert spoke about it earlier, with the creation of exit strategies, due diligences, etc. for any ICT contracts, with the objective to feed the DORA register with all created and collected information. So basically, I know how painful it is to complete this register, because it is unfortunately a part of my life, and I am glad to share this burden with you. So let's now address the register sections. So in this register, we took the instance of a credit institution named entity A. So entity A with the contract, with the reg cover contract of TOT solution. So the financial entity maintaining the register is entity A, credit institution. The provider is TOT solutions, and the contractual arrangement, the contract reference is reg cover. First of all, be sure, so I am at the far right of the register, section 99. First of all, be sure to fill in all the definitions in this section correctly. Why? Because in these sections, by defining some concepts and some degree of several concepts, this will help you to select the good option when completing the register later. For instance, here you have to define what is a standalone arrangement, an overarching arrangement, subsequent or associated arrangements. And beside, you have different level, for instance, different level of sensitiveness of data, different level of impact of discontinuing the function, etc., substitutability, possibility of reintegration of the service. At TOT, so from our side, we did the job by defining all of them. And so when there is no guidance, there is no guidelines to develop this definition. So it's really up to you to define them in order to implement them appropriately, correctly in your register of information. So once it's done, this may seem a little counterintuitive, but we recommend starting to fill in the register with section 6.1 before tackling other sections. Why? Because in these sections, the information will largely influence the way you complete other sections. In this context, the DORA does not define the term function in order to let financial entities some flexibility to develop them in the register. Moreover, there is no expected level of granularity, so that you can develop each function with the appropriate level of information, let's say. Interesting to note also, in their last Q&A, the ESAS, the European Supervisory Authorities, the ESAS, indicated that functions may include, first, so I'm reading it, those directly tied to your core business activities, and second, those categorized as super function, which enables these core activities to operate effectively. For instance, recently, we have developed a business functions mapping for an investment firm. Maybe the investment firm is among participants today. It's anonymized, of course. We have developed this mapping table by developing 3 different categories at the highest level: steering process, business process, and support process. For each categories, we have developed multiple macro processes, and for each macro processes, we have developed multiple processes. Once we have developed these processes, so this is the level of granularity we used to use, but you can use the macro process. It's up to you to decide. For all of these processes, we have developed the regulatory time objective, the regulatory point objective, and the criticity of the function. What exactly is the level of criticity of the functions? Once it's done, you linked your license activity with the process, the selected process, the targeted process. For instance, here we linked maybe it's a little bit small. Well, we linked the portfolio management, the license activity portfolio management, with the process manage counterparty risk, managing risk and compliance. So here in the column D, you have to list all your business functions and connect them and link them to your license activities. Be careful, because you must not rely on the license activities list located on the CSSF website, on the regulator website. Why? Because we realized, may I share? Screen with you, yes. We realized that there was a table hosted online on the official webpage of the EBA with all the license activities, and we found out that there were more license activities on this table. So in column G, you can filter the column B to select the good financial activity, the good financial entity. So we realized that there were more license activities on this table than on the CSSF website. So the only good source of information, the only reliable source of information is this table. You can find it on this official website, because now there is a single stop interface where you can find any information you need to create, maintain, and report your register of information. It's on this webpage. You can screenshot it if you don't have the link, if you still don't have the link. Okay, let's resume. So here I linked my business functions with my license activities. Once it's done, you just have to number them from F1 to F plus infinity. Here, for instance, we have 10 combination of license activities with business functions. So the credit institution I represent in the register has 10 combinations. Why some of them I highlighted in red? They are highlighted in red because we determined that they were critical. Decide it's optional, but we recommend to explain why this function is critical. But it's optional. What's critical? We developed the explanation. Then you must insert the dates of the last assessment of criticality of importance. This is the day of today. The recovery time objective and the recovery point objective. I refer you to my previous screen with the business functions mapping. And then the impact of discontinuing function. Okay, so this impact is low, medium, high. So if the function is discontinued, has it negligible impact on your company? Is it a tolerable, a medium tolerable impact on your company, or is it has it a stronger impact, a stronger effect, a stronger consequence on your activities, intolerable, I would say. So once the section is fulfilled, we may resume our analysis from the beginning of the register, section 1.1. Section 1.1, there's nothing hard to understand. As Jean-Hubert said earlier, financial entities are now obliged to use only ILI to identify themselves. Name of the entity, country of the entity. So we are entity A, a credit institution based in Luxembourg. The CSSF is our regulator. the reporting date is the April April 2025 because we must submit our register this year on April, between the 1 and the 15th. Okay, so second section now. You list all entities within your scope of consolidation, within the scope of the register. If you report on an individual basis without being part of the group, you must identify yourself in this section. So as you can see, we duplicate the previous information. I'm still the entity A credit institution in Luxembourg, etc. If you belong to a third-party group, okay, so your parent undertaking is not within the EU, within the EEA, well, you don't have to identify your parent undertaking, your parent company. Likewise, you don't have to report subsidiaries of your parent companies outside the EEA. So EEA, European Economic Area, EEA. But if your parent company is outside the EEA, but you have subsidiaries within the EEA, you will have to report your subsidiaries in this section, of course. Also interesting to note, if you owned two different licenses with the same LEI codes, it's possible because you may be a management company or an IIFM with the same LEI codes. So that represents the difficulties because you must identify only one company with a unique LEI code. Well, here the ISAS recommend you to contact your local supervisor to get further guidance on the single financial entities to use in the register. So name, country, type of entity, I am credit institution, I am the ultimate parent. This is my LEI code. That date of last update. So date of last update, let me remember how it works. Okay, so anytime you modify any information in the register of information, you must modify these dates. It's not the case with the neighbor column. Here, you must only modify the dates if there is a change among the financial entities listed in these sections, among the financial entities within the scope. Date of deletion in the register of information. If you delete any data, you modify the dates as well. The currency is the one you use in your annual report, financial annual report. Value of total assets. Here, for instance, the value of my total assets. So my total assets is the total asset of all my organizational structure. This represents 10,500,000 euros. Okay, so for the next section 1.3, you must list all branches outside the national territory. So if me, entity A, based in Luxembourg, I have branches outside Luxembourg, I must list them in this register. This is what I've done. I mentioned the branch I had outside Luxembourg, namely in France. Why I used a CRN? Because we used to say, okay, now only LEI codes and UID codes are acceptable from a regulatory standpoint? Well, it's because it is mentioned, unfortunately, in the ISA's Q&A. If the branch share with you the same LEI code, you may designate them with an alternative code. So we use here the incorporation number. So this is the only exception you can do in the register. So here's my branch located in French. Let's move on the next one. So next one, we are now addressing the contractual part of the register. So in the first column, of course, you indicate the arrangement reference number. You may have noticed that we added a line here in line 6. In line 6, sorry, we added a line for convenience. In this line, we have implemented all instructions located in another tab, in another sheet of the register. And in instructions, it is mentioned that your contractual reference number must be unique and consistent over time and used consistently, across all templates. So once I designated my contract as contractual arrangement rate cover, I will use contractual arrangement rate cover in any templates I have to fill. So here, the rate cover contract is a standalone contract. Okay, it's self-sufficient, autonomous, independent, and it costs to you 50,000 euros per year. Okay. Next section, section 2.2. So this one is a little bit tricky because, well, you may notice that there are a lot of other rows added to the first one. We'll see why afterwards. So this is my reference number, this is my LEI code, and this is the LEI code of TOT Solutions. As Jean-Hubert said earlier, we have got one 2 weeks ago. And we find again all our business functions, the numbering of our business function, F5, F8. Why we had to add, why I put the F5 in red? It's because F5 is related to critical function, F8 to a non-critical function. But why so many rows? Is that because? So I'm gonna move forward. It's because in rate cover we host data, but we locate our data at rest and the processing in different countries, in 3 different countries: Netherlands, Ireland, Netherlands. So basically, I think it was not Netherlands, but I think it's a mistake from us. So anytime you have multiple options, when you have to select an information and you consider that there are multiple options applicable to your situation, for instance, I locate my data in different countries, I will add rows as much as there are locations, basically. So I added all these locations. So I multiplied my rows. And then I duplicate all my rows into I duplicate all my rows like identically. I mirror them because I had to add another functions. So there the contract impact the critical functions in multiple countries, but the contract also impact a non-critical function in multiple countries. Okay, so we put cloud services, or it's not really the case because reg cover is not really a cloud services because reg cover does not meet the cloud services criteria, the 6 or 7 criteria. So it would be more data analysis, basically. Start date, nothing to comment. End date, nothing to comment, except that if there is, if it's an open-ended contract, you have the format, you have the expected format to use. Reason of termination or ending the contract arrangement, no reason because the contract is still active. Notice period must be showed in days. So notice period for the provider, so for TOT and for the credit institution, entity A. The country of the governing law, it's Luxembourg. Nothing, there's nothing hard to understand. The country of provision of the service. So this is the country where the service is effectively provided. So you have to consider this aspect from an operational perspective, because otherwise, you may have clients everywhere in the world. If there is a very an operational footprint abroad, it's possible, but you must focus on the operational aspect of the service before all. Why some of them are blue? Some columns are blue because they represent what the regulator calls primary key. The primary key may be found in this list. In this list. So you may recognize the design. It's the data point model. Below the data point model, you have a table, and in this table, you will find again all sections, subsection, all sections and columns of the register of information. If the datum you target is a primary key, you must, and you have no information to use in the cell. Okay, you have no information the cell must not be filled with any information. If it's a primary key, you must write not applicable, because some column may be left empty, some column, other column may be not. Must be not be left empty. So here we are in presence of a primary key value. So it was not necessary for me, for the non-critical function, to indicate the country of provision of ICT service. Here it was not a primary key, here it's a primary key. So here I had the opportunity to leave all cells empty. But here, because it's a primary key, I must mention the option not applicable. And I do the same every time I face a primary key value. Storage of data. If you store data or if you foresee to store data, you answer yes. For at least for the when it comes to deal with the critical function, not the non-critical. Location of data. We already talk about it. It's a primary key value, not applicable for the non-critical function. And here, it's a primary key value, but it's applicable for both critical function and non-critical function. So we have indicated all countries involved in the management of data. Sensitiveness of data, I remind you the definition sections. In the definition sections, I have estimated that the data, the medium level was related to internal information. So I answered that the sensitiveness of data hosted by Recover was medium, had a medium level. Actually, it could also be, it's just an example, of course, it could also be high, because we probably host confidential information in Recover because we host your contractual arrangements. Level of reliance. Here, there is no need to develop a definition. What is the consequence of the description of the service on your company? As I said earlier, for the function, has it a negligible impact? Because you may have a service supporting a critical important function, but you realize that you can change from another service provider, from this provider to another one very efficiently, very quickly. So basically, yes, it supports a critical function, but I just have to make a quick call and contract with another provider. So the reliance will be here in this situation low. Otherwise, this could have a material reliance. So you know that you will have, like, let's say, moderate consequences, acceptable consequences. The reliance would be material, and if consequences on your company are unacceptable, in principle, you will have to fill in the cell with the full reliance option. List of intra-group contractual arrangements. So here also, this is we must bear in mind that this section does not concern a situation where you have a contract with your parent company and your parent company has a contract with external service provider. This does not concern the situation. This only concerns the situation where first you have an intra-group contractual arrangement with, let's say, a holding, for instance, and your holding has another contractual arrangement, intra-group, with the internal service provider. And here the purpose, the goal of this section is to connect the contract. So I am entity A, I have a contract with my holding, 001, and my holding has a contract with an internal service provider, not an external service provider, with an internal service provider. And I linked both contractual arrangements. That's all. When it's done, this column becomes true. Next one. So here, the contractual arrangement for reference number, LEI. Entities signing the contractual arrangement for receiving ICT services. As the credit institution, entity A sign the contract for receiving ICT services. But you may deal with situation where the signatory does not benefit from the service. It's possible. It's possible. Sometimes a parent company signed the contract only for its affiliates. They do not benefit. It do not benefit from the ICT service. So here, I sign the contract, and I receive the ICT service. Section 3.2, you list all your third-party service provider signing the contractual arrangements. IT Solutions is the service provider, but it's also possible to have multiple service providers signing the contractual arrangements. You have to list all of them here. And I know this this may be understood as a duplication of the section 5, where you have to list all your service provider, but it is asked in the register. So all signatory providers are listed in this section. Section 3.3, entities signing the contract arrangements for providing ICT service to other entities within the scope of consideration. Remember when I suggest the possibility of an intragroup contractual arrangement? In this intragroup contractual arrangement, I said that there was an internal service provider in the group. Well, basically, if there is an internal provider within the group, so it probably this provider is in the list in the scope of consolidation in the entities list at the beginning of the register. You will have to list this provider providing ICT services within your own group, within two entities within your own groups. Here, IT Solution is an external service provider, a third-party service provider. So we didn't fill in this section. Section 4, entities making use the ICT services. Once again, you may have multiple entities in your contracts which receive the ICT service. I gave the example where the parent company signed the contract for itself, but also for its affiliates. So in this situation, you will mention if you are the parent company, you are making use of the ICT service, but your affiliates also use ICT services. You list your entity with all entities making use of the ICT service. Here we mentioned the contractual arrangement reference number, the LEI code of entity A, and remember, entity A has a branch. If the branch benefits from the ICT service, I must also mention the branch. So I added another row with the branch of entity A because my branch used the ICT service. Okay, so now we are located in the service provider section. So this section is disconnected from the contractual section because, as you can see, there is no contractual arrangement reference number. Here, the point is only to list all your service providers. And when I say all your service provider, it's all. Basically, all service providers requested in section 5.1, section 5.2 are the same. In sections 5.1 and sections 5.2, you have to list all your direct service provider, all ICT intragroup service provider, all subcontractors supporting critical or important functions of the service contracted with your service providers. And it may be found in the ESAS Q&A, where your intragroup service provider, so I am in the situation with an intragroup service provider, use subcontractors to provide its ICT services, you have to mention at least the first rank of the subcontractors of your internal group of your internal service providers. So basically, so you are the rank 0, your intragroup service provider is rank 1, you mention at least the first subcontractor of your service provider. Let's have a few words about the situation of the subcontracting. As you may already know, the RTS, the regulatory technical standards about subcontracting was rejected by the European Commission. So for now, we are not really sure of the oversight depth on subcontractors. We don't really know if we have to mention the whole subcontracting chain if in the register. But if it was the case, we all admit that it's a little bit unpractical, unrealistic. So for now, we recommend to mention at least providers, subcontractors in rank 2 and rank 3. So yourself rank 1, provider yourself rank 0, provider rank 1, subcontractors from rank 2, and subcontractors in the, for instance, in case of if the service is really critical, subcontractors in the rank 3. What can I say? 2 additional columns in this template, in this register template. In the previous register templates, the template of the dry run. So this is the template of the dry run in front of you. But we adapt it with new conditions, new criteria of the data point model and the validation rules. They have added 2 additional columns, so be careful and use them. Likewise, take care of your drop-down list because they have made changes in the drop-down list. So use the good one. Legal name of the service provider. The legal name, if your service provider has a legal name in another alphabet, you have to use this alphabet. Okay, so if it's not in Latin alphabet, you have to use the original name of the service provider. And once it's done, only in the next column you may translate the original name into a Latin alphabet. So here we find Total IT Solutions with our with our direct subcontractor. Microsoft Ireland is our direct subcontractor because we host the Recover platform on Azure, and of course Microsoft Corporation is the ultimate parent company, the ultimate subcontractor of Microsoft Ireland. Okay, name of the type of person. We are a legal person, but sometimes you may contract with individuals. So it's the opportunity to list if it's the case. Country of the ICT third-party service provider headquarters. Basically, the ESAS said that usually the country of headquarters is the country with where the service provider is taxed. In my memory, Jean-Hubert, feel free to interrupt if I am not right. Currency of the amounts reported. Okay, so here our contract with you is in euro, so the currency is in euro. The total annual expense with the service provider, you have only one contract with Recover, so it costs you 50,000 euros. But if you had if you have had multiple contracts with us, you should have to calculate. You should have to calculate the sum of all your contractual arrangements with Thought IT Solutions. Here we find again our identification code. It's LEI, and then it's the moment where you link all your service providers, because in the first section, I have just listed them. In the next column, I am going to link them. How? I am going to link them with this column, the rank. So Thought IT Solution is the rank 2, Microsoft Thailand rank 2. No, sorry. Thought IT Solution rank 1, Microsoft Thailand rank 2, Microsoft Worldwide America rank 3. Our LEI, and here in the last column, sorry, in the column 5 to 60, I am going to make reference to the LEI to which this contract is linked. So here, my contract with the contract with Microsoft Thailand is linked to the contract between Recover and NTTA. And the contract of Microsoft Worldwide is linked to the contract with Microsoft Thailand. Right? So I think we are good for this section. Functions identification, we already talked about it. And last but not least, the assessment of the ICT services. As you can see, this section is supposed to be filled in only in case your contractual arrangement, your contract supports critical or important functions. Here we identified the Recover contract as a contract supporting critical or important functions. That's why the contractual arrangement of Recover is listed in this section. So we find the contractual arrangement reference number, the identification code, its LEI, and in order to answer all these questions, so first you will have to develop your definitions in the sections 99, but also you will have, before answering, to develop exit strategies, because this is the deliverable, the document in which you evaluate if your provider is substitutable and your exit strategy, your exit plan. So are there alternative service providers, etc.? How many people are, what is the workload? What is the timing? How many people are going to handle the exit strategy, etc.? Once the exit strategy is done, it's possible to say that it's easy to replace Thought IT Solution by another provider. Reason: so if the service provider is not considered as substitutable, you must indicate the reason why the service provider is not substitutable, the date of the last audit on the third-party service provider. So the last audit may be an internal audit, a joint team between the client and service provider, so the pooled audit, or a third party appointed by supervisory authority. In our situation, we have not been audited in this example, so we use the recommended format here. Existence of an exit plan. Yes, we have developed an exit strategy, so we have an exit plan. It's easy to reintegrate the contracted ICT services. impact of discontinuing the ICT services is low. Are there alternative service providers? Identified, yes. And we mentioned, for instance, formalized, but let's hope that that recover will satisfy fully your needs in terms of regulatory compliance. So it's as Jean-Hubert said at the beginning of the presentation, the Excel file is not really the expected format for the expected format to maintain your register, because as soon as you have like hundreds and hundreds of contracts, it becomes really hard to oversee, to manage, to handle this register. That's why the ESAs themselves recommend financial entities to use automated solutions, specialized service providers, etc. But most probably, all financial entities this year will use this Excel, at least for the April deadline. All financial entities will use this format, this Excel file. But if you use the Excel files, take care of convert it into the XBLS CSV format expected, because not only this information here, for instance, is easily substitutable SAS, not only this information must be converted into the EBA code. EBA code you may find in the drop-down list, so into these codes, but also the format of the file itself must be converted, right? So we recommend you to use a tool, a conversion tool, to appropriately convert your Excel file before sending it to the supervisory authorities. And this brings me to the end of my presentation. So I will address your potential questions, and I will probably leave the floor to Jean-Hubert to have to make a wrap up of the presentation. Thank you for your attention.
Yeah. Thanks a lot, Alexandre, for this deep dive. It was deep indeed. So there was a question, but you answered it already from Jovita about the codes. So in the export, you will have to provide to the CSF or your regulated body. It's not the values, it's the EBA code, as Alexandre shown you in the drop-down list. So you need a conversion tool from your Excel sheet to CSV. If you just export from Excel to CSV, send that to CSF, it will not work. It will be most probably be rejected. So as Renald was mentioning, we are helping a lot of organizations to feed this register and to process the DORA files, doing all the steps we have covered: risk assessment, due diligence, contractual requirements, CIF assessment, exit strategy, and so on. We are busy assisting a lot of customers on that. So if you need help, yeah, just ask, I would say. It's becoming a bit late for April, but we surely can help you. I would put in the chat our email addresses of myself, Renald, and Alexandre. So yeah, and Renald answered already the question. So you see how complex it is and how challenging it is, not only to populate and to provide that to the regulated body, to the CSF or the central bank or whatever. But then the next challenge will be to update, to keep it up to date, and it should be up to date. So I think that's it for my wrap up. Quickly looking at the questions, but I think we have answered most of them.
Or if people wants to raise question live, they can, of course.
Yeah, good idea.
I think we have unmute, or you can unmute Jean-Hubert, maybe everyone.
There is a new question. Is a template from EBA the official template? No, it's not. So there's no official templates anymore from the EBA. So that's one of the biggest issue, in fact. So the codes used, most probably, Alexandre, can you confirm that the codes in the drop-down, I think we had to add some values to the drop-down, if I remember.
Yes, we have modified the drop-down list. So you can start from the EBA dry run register, but you have to modify it with all with the data point model and validation rules and the drop-down list, and the rest on the listed on the EBA website. I showed you the web page. It's the name of the web page is Preparations for Reporting of DORA Register of Information. It's on the EBA website. So here you will have everything you need to set up your register. We recommend also to be accompanied with IT specialists when you do this modification.
Other questions? Do you have specific question? You can raise hands or use Q&A or the chat. Feel free to use the channel you want. Just answering the question from Admir. So then, if there is no question, I would like to thank everyone for joining. Don't hesitate to contact us if you need some more information by email or whatsoever. Yeah, we are sharing our email address, so feel free to contact us. So wish you good luck and stay safe, and see you next time.
Okay, thank you too. Have a good day.
Have a good day,
Bye-bye.
everyone.
Bye-bye.